Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Barely Even Here, the podcast where we delve into the fleeting moments that shape our lives. I'm your host, Maddie Smith, and today we're going to be talking about jobs. And I mean jobs specifically. I didn't want to say work because I feel, and this is just my personal view on this, you put work into anything that you do. You know, if you have work ethic, you can put that into your art, whatever medium that may be. It could be music or poetry. It could be physical art in terms of painting, drawing, sculpting, anything along those lines. As far as a job, I mean specifically like where you go to a place that you don't necessarily want to be at and you have to clock in, and now they have you trapped until the end of your scheduled shift. Now, I know things are different for everybody. Not everybody hates their job. I don't hate my job. Some people love their jobs. They love going to work. Just because I don't hate my job doesn't mean I enjoy going to work. There's a lot more that I would like to do with my time. I feel like I'm not paid enough, and I feel like that seems to be the common occurrence with just about everyone. Having to deal with bosses and coworkers and customers if you work retail or the service industry, and you don't really feel like you're very appreciated. Well, we are going to talk about all of that today, so you're definitely going to want to stay tuned. I have had a lot of jobs in my life. If you include places that, let's say I was transferred to other locations, things like that, I have had over 40 jobs in my life, and I'm 35 years old. I started working when I was 11 years old. That was when I had my first summer job, and I started working consistently once I turned 14. I got to work at it was just me and my mom. My sisters had moved away, so my mom needed some help, and she had a friend that helped operate this little bowling alley down the road from our house, and I was a pin setter or a pin monkey. If you don't know what that means, there are still some bowling alleys that don't have the device that picks up the pins and sets them back up for you. So you usually have young kids back there, not all the time, but usually it's a group of, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids that are back there, and they pick up the pins and they load them in the machine and they roll your ball back down. And absolutely, there are some assholes that are out there to try to hurt kids in public, which is, it's so ballsy, and you're such a piece of shit if you do this. But there's people that will launch a ball down while it's very clearly not ready. Like the pins are still down. You could tell that there's legs back there bending down, picking stuff up. And these are grown ass adult men and women in their 50s and 60s even. This isn't just some drunk dickhead, some young guy who's just trying to show off for his friends. Nah, these are like people who are entirely too old to even think that shit like that is funny. But I digress. I was working there. I was getting paid trash, but I had my own money. Helped my mom out. I was able to buy my own school clothes and things like that. So I started working very early. I've worked a ton in the service industry. My grandmother actually ran a restaurant when I was a child for many, many years. So I spent a lot of time in restaurants, and then I went on to work in restaurants. I've worked at several GameStops. I've opened several GameStops as a manager. I've worked at a Spirit Halloween store. I've worked at Ripley's Haunted Adventure downtown San Antonio, Texas, which is the best job I've ever had. The pay was trash. I think minimum wage at the time was like $6.75 or $6.50 or something like that. But my job was literally just to scare the shit out of people all day. So what you do is you sit in this room, which had blue construction paper over all of the lights so that your eyes would adjust to the darkness. And after not very long, you can see in the dark. It's crazy. From getting no light exposure, your eyes adjust to the dark entirely, because we have rooms that are like trap rooms where I'm in control of it. I'll let you out when I'm ready to. There's like a pedal on the floor where, all the doors are sealed. It just feels like there's no doors. So people are feeling around the room in the dark. There's a pedal that kicks on and it's like this flashing light and they could see that you're in there and it freaks them out, especially when it goes black again. And then the door opens and they can go. But I could get 2 inches away from someone's face and they have no idea that you're there. You could like breathe on them. Just, I would say the most ridiculous shit when I would jump out and scare people too. I would just yell like, bacon! Or just anything. Pop-Tarts. Man, we used to just say the stupidest things because you'd say it and they'd be like, did he just say it? And then you jump out again and then scare them again. So we just sit up in the, these are really old historical buildings downtown San Antonio that Ripley's is built into. And so sometimes we'd go upstairs and wander the halls of these old buildings. And for the most part, you're just kind of waiting around, chilling. There was this band called Saturday Night Shockers. And if you like Misfits or really old AFI, stuff like that, they were a shock rock band. They were really good. And they did a lot of Misfits covers and some of their own originals, but you should check them out. Shout out to Saturday Night Shockers. I don't know if they're still together, but those guys were a terrific band. They were very fun, and they would sometimes practice up there, so I just got to listen to this awesome band. And I don't mean awesome because they were for like people that I knew, because there's sometimes people will shout out these bands and they talk about how awesome they are, and you check them out and they're dog shit. No, these guys, it was surprising how good they were, and I hope they're still making music out there. But, that just goes to show that jobs can be fun. You could love going to work. You could have a really good staff that you work with. You could have a great manager. You might have regular customers that you see, or maybe you like the atmosphere that you're in. Maybe you have a job where you get to travel, so you're not really in the same place a lot, even if it's local or semi-local or across the country or across the world. You might have a job that you love. But there are aspects that I want to point out about jobs that I think a lot of us just find sucky. It's not enjoyable. It's not an enjoyable experience. And even when you do work a job where it is an enjoyable experience, there are always these little things that you have to put up with. My goal is to work for myself. I have an idea for a pub that I've always wanted to open. All in my spare time, I sit around and I think about ideas for my pub. I've dabbled in stand-up comedy, which is something that I'd love to do. I don't know, man. I just kind of fall off of it. I need to get back into it. I know, and it's been so much dead time that I'm kind of ashamed of myself for stopping for so long, because COVID happened, and then it's like I used it as an excuse while everything was closed down, because that was easier for me. But now it's been too long. I need to get back into it. I really want to make this podcast a full-time job. Honestly, my goal is to upload, at least record 5 days a week. I want it to be a full-time job. I want to be able to travel. I want to talk to people that I really want to talk to. When we do start getting guests on the show, the purpose, actually, I'm bringing that up under this topic for the show, under, why jobs suck, is Barely Even Here is about the human experience. That's what it's all about. Life is very short and time is very, very big. And all of us are just living these little moments that make up our lives. And I personally want to interview people that are relatable, that don't necessarily have a crazy, interesting job even. Maybe just someone that, people that I find interesting that come from different walks of life. There are going to be some guests that are in particular industries I think people would be interested in knowing about, that run certain companies, that just happen to do certain things, that stream other podcasters. I'm definitely going to be doing all that. But mainly just people I find interesting, And I find people interesting in their own ways all over the place. Even people that I can't stand, I'm still interested. It still makes me think why that person is the way that they are, and I think about that at work a lot. Like, let's start out with pay. The concept of being paid for a job. Man, I mean, we're all very, very different. There are some people in the world, you have your Gary V's of the world. You have your David Goggins, your Joe Rogans, your just those sort of people that are just always on go. They don't know how to shut it off. Kevin Hart, The Rock, guys like that. I mean, I'm sure they know how to shut it off. They just don't want to shut it off. They found the key and they know what they're doing and they like what they do and it's working very, very well. There are others of us that just kind of fly by the seat of our pants. We don't even know where to begin to find the keys to things like that. We're just living life the way that we live life. There are other people that just have zero interest in anything in life. They don't really serve a purpose in society. I mean, I'm sure they serve some sort of a purpose. I don't mean to be cruel, but they have no ambition. They don't want to be productive. That's like just disgusting to them. And somehow they're able to coast along. But for those of us that find value in our time, having to give up experiences is, I find, very detrimental to the spirit. In my lifetime, I can't tell you how many times I've missed out on concerts or events that I have friends that are musicians. I have friends that are musicians, rather, and I've had to miss out on them doing really important shows to them. I have friends that are in production. I've missed out. I mean, I've also had the opportunity of doing some productions with them, but I've also had to miss opportunities of seeing them get to realize these really big goals of theirs. When you have to miss a wedding or you have to miss something really important to someone you really care about or something really important to you because you just can't miss work. We fall into this well almost where we need the money. We're not in a position where we could miss work because missing that day of work could mean groceries. That's the rest of your rent. That's the rest of your electric bill. And for a lot of us, we just cannot afford to miss work. So we're tethered to it completely and wholly. It becomes the most important thing in our life because without it, we can't take care of our children. We can't take care of ourselves. But I just feel like pay is never enough. Now, I was not privileged enough to go to college, and I'm sorry if that offends anybody. I don't mean that in an offensive way. Not everybody is, and it makes me really angry when I hear people talk about, well, sorry, you didn't go to college, so you just have to take what you can get, because there are people that I know personally that have gone to great colleges that have banging degrees. I know somebody who's got a bioengineering degree, and she's been working at a grocery store for going on 2 decades now. I mean, well over a decade. I won't say going on 2 decades, but for a long time, because it's just very hard to find a job in their field, or they get so dependent on and codependent on their jobs that they're too afraid to make any other moves because it's keeping things stable with what they're making. Even if it's not the desired pay, they're just so afraid because if this falls through, what am I going to do? I won't have anything. I won't have rent. I won't have electric. I'll lose my car. I need the internet because, let's say I do a podcast, or they have a second job where they're working from home remotely and they have to have the internet. The internet's a luxury. We could live without it, but not for everybody. We forget about that. Not everybody gets the opportunity to go to college, though. And I personally love to learn. I feel like a lot of my youth was robbed from me. That's the way I look at it. So a lot of that time of my youth I feel like in my youth, throughout my teen years, because I was working, in my 20s, it was always either, hey man, let's go do this. I can't, man. I have to work. And mind you, I've been on my own since I was 17 years old. I moved out of the house when I was 16. When I moved out of the house, I was like 17. So I've been on my own ever since. So it was work, 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 work. I didn't have anybody to take care of me, and it gets very hard. So for me, I was very ignorant of how to even try to go to college. It was, I don't know. Like I was saying, I missed out on a lot because it was, hey man, let's go do this, and so-and-so's in town. Let's go check out the show. We may never get to see the show again. And it's like, I can't, I have to work. Or I was out of a job and I didn't have the money. So the majority of my life has been, I can't, I don't have the money, or I can't, I have to work. And it's very tough. And I don't mean to sound like, oh, boo-hoo, poor me, because I've also had really, really great experiences in my life. And I'm not complaining that I have to work. No, you know what? I'm going to be honest with myself and be honest with you. I am complaining that I have to go to a job. I don't mind working. This podcast is work. I plan and prep for it and think about it all week long. I love to do it. I like to put work into being a father. I like to put work into learning a new language. I love to learn. That's what disappoints me about never going to college is, I know people that go and cheat their way through basically the whole thing, or they half-ass their way, or they coast their way through college. And it makes me so mad because you're given this grand opportunity to go to a facility filled with scholars, filled with people eager to learn and eager to teach, filled with so much knowledge that's just right at your fingertips, and you have access to all of it, and to do nothing but piss about, have somebody else find the answers for you so that you could bring it to class as if you did the work, and then learn nothing, get out, and you're dumb. I don't understand how that happens. I mean, I absolutely understand. I guess it just frustrates me so much that I don't want to understand. But when it comes to jobs, it's all about that pay or getting that bag, like they like to say. And it becomes your whole life. It's the center of your universe. It's this supermassive black hole in your galaxy that's just kind of keeps everything in place. Especially if you've ever gotten a job out of desperation. I remember, 10 years ago, $14 an hour would have been awesome. $14 an hour now is not going to pay your rent. It's not. So don't hit people with, oh, well, if you went to college, you would have had better options. And so it's not that easy for everybody. Everybody has different things going on in their lives. People like to grow and they like to learn in different ways. Which, I mean, there are some people that go off, they don't go to college, they have life experiences instead, right? And they become extremely successful. And then their college buddy is now working a job that is great for his degrees, perfect for his field, but he hates it. He's making great money, but he hates that he has to go there. Meanwhile, his buddy went and fucked about and just got nothing but life experiences, but he happened to absorb things in just some way. And it clicked, and he's a very successful person. Plus, he loves what he does. It's all different for everybody. And jobs like to use pay like it's a... Jobs don't pay enough, man. Jobs do not pay enough. It doesn't make any sense to start someone out working half-assed and then start someone else out that's like a savant at what they do, and they're making the same amount of money. That doesn't make any sense. And that is, every job I've ever had does that. It's not like, we're going to start you here and then we're going to check back on you. No, why am I working 4 times as hard as this asshole who shows up late all the time, who leaves early all the time, who doesn't want to work, who always has an excuse? Why have I been here for 6 months and I'm not making any more money than him? That shows me that you don't appreciate me. You don't appreciate my skill. I'm a fucking machine. I'm a machine that's here to do things for you, to make you money. And what really drives me crazy is like managers, dude. You don't even own the fucking place. If it's an owner, that's another story. But managers that get off on making these fucking rules. Here's an example. I'm fucking 35 years old. I do happen to vape, right? Our manager implemented some sort of rule to where now, if you want to step outside to vape or smoke cigarettes or anything like that, you need to get manager's approval. And you have to go around the side of the building where the chance of customers seeing you is 0. So you have to go ask a man. I'm 35 years old. I got to go find somebody while I have a break and I'm not busy. I got to go find somebody. Hey, can I please go outside and get my nicotine fix? I can't just step outside like a trusted adult. Step outside, walk over. If you want me out of custom, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, it looks kind of trashy if we got a group of people standing over there vaping or smoking cigarettes. Vaping and smoking cigarettes don't take as long. All right, I don't smoke cigarettes, so I'm not going to be out there for 10, 15 minutes. I step out, I hit my vape maybe 3-4 times, I go back in. I'm out for less than 2 fucking minutes. Now, here's the kicker. Here's why I'm griping about it, right? Because the same manager will just step in the office and vape. I can smell it. I work right next to his door. It's the same smell I smell when he steps outside to vape. I know what it's a fucking vape. He's vaping in the office. So why even bother making up the rule? It was simply to be in control. You know, that's another problem I have with jobs. There's always going to be somebody who's in control and you have no control over that. So if this person is still doing their job very well, the people above him don't care. They don't care how he treats you. They don't care how she fucks with your schedule all the time, knowing full fucking well that you need a babysitter, that your schedule is fixed. And every single week, that same bitch changes your shit up. And then you have to find coverage. And if you don't, that's on you. I need somebody to cover my shift. And, oh, no, I can't. I worked a double yesterday and I just really don't. Which is like fine. But it's so difficult to gauge whether your manager is going to be good or bad when you get the job. Because you love them at first. Maybe you might really like them. Then you start noticing little shit like that. Like, why is it every week I have to tell this motherfucker about my schedule? I have children that are not old enough to be alone. And you're still having to go do it. I once had this manager. It was when I first started bar backing at this bar called The Ticket. And the owner, who wasn't even the owner, his dad was the owner. So my manager, his name was, I feel like it's, Scott. Man, I can't remember his name. Probably a good thing. This guy was a turd. But I'm pretty sure his name was Scott. And he used to wear these big sunglasses all the time. And he was just a total dickhead, pervert, liked to hire really young girls. And he was just really fucking weird. Well, anyway, me and my buddies were writing a screenplay. So I had asked ahead of time, the day before, at the end of my shift, I told him, hey, is it cool if me and my buddies bring our stuff because we're working on the screenplay? We'll just get a table up top on the second floor, just kind of out of the way, probably on the patio or something. He's like, yeah, that's fine. So we get there. I got my backpack with me. He's like, hey, man, you can't bring that backpack in here. I was like, oh, this is that script I was telling you about, that screenplay. He's like, I don't care. You can't bring backpacks in here. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Can I just put my bag in the car and then just bring my stuff in? He's like, yeah, that's fine. Just no bags. I'm like, okay, cool. If that's policy, that's policy. So I get my stuff, put my bag in the car, go up, order a beer. I get a call, and a group of my other buddies showed up, and they're like, yeah, we can't come in. I'm like, what do you mean you can't come in? He's like, yeah, you can't bring your bags. They're like, oh, I forgot to tell you guys. Leave your bags in your cars, but you can bring your stuff. Well, okay. So they do the same thing. They come up, they order drinks. We're there for half an hour. Never get our drinks. So I go downstairs, and I ask the bartender, Candace. It's like, hey, we've put drinks in, and we never got them. And she was like, oh, okay, I'll have somebody run it up to you. Never got him. We ended up being there for another half hour, and we're like, dude, fuck this. Let's just go somewhere else. So we ended up leaving. I think we went to IHOP or something like that. That's where we usually go because it's 24 hours, coffee, and there was a smoking section at the time, and we all smoked cigarettes. So we leave. I go in for my shift the next day, and he tells me that I ordered like 5 drinks and never paid for them. And I said, Scott, I never got those drinks. And you can ask Candace when she fucking gets here at noon. And he's like, well, I'm not going to have a thief working for me. And at that point, I don't care who you are. You start calling me a thief. Now you're not talking to an employee anymore. Now you're talking to a really, really angry young man. Because now you've insulted my integrity as a person. That's not your fucking job. I am not obligated under any circumstances to put up with any sort of abuse, and neither are any of you. Stand up to people that do that to you. And I did. And I went off on him and told him how creepy he was around the girls. And I told him to take his fucking sunglasses off because it wasn't bright in there. And that was how I ended that job. I have another one for you. I worked at, when I was, maybe 19, 20, I worked at a Quiznos for all of 2 weeks, enough to get one paycheck. And there was this manager lady there who was an entire bitch. This lady had the younger kids, the ones that were like 15 or so, crawling up under the little sandwich heater to clean under that. She had them cleaning the dumpsters. And I even told those guys, I was like, hey, what are you doing? She's like, oh, she told us she wanted us to scrub the dumpsters. I was like, bro, don't do that. We don't even own the dumpsters. That doesn't belong to us. That's not the way dumpsters work. We like rent that shit out, and then if they ever leave, they go back. They don't keep the dumpster. Like, don't do that. That's a hazard to your health, man. What's she gonna have you climb in there? Well, I go to work one day, and the door's closed, and there's like cops there and a bunch of other people. And so I'm asking her out, like, what the fuck is going on? That lady was not an employee of Quiznos. She was our manager's mom. She was in no way, shape, or form affiliated with Quiznos. Are you understanding what I'm saying? This was a random person pretending to be our manager. Pretending. Having people do tasks when she didn't work there. Threatening to fire them. Threatening to take their hours away. Fucking with their lives because she told us she had everybody convinced she was the manager. She hired me on. Legally, I shouldn't have been fucking hired. She was doing bank deposits. She was taking money from the safe and taking it large amounts. It's a Quiznos, for fuck's sake. This isn't like some mom and pop shop. She was running bank deposits and bringing money from the bank and doing all types of stuff. She had the company credit card, did not work there. And we're just supposed to trust that these people have our best interest at heart, man. Like, I shit you not. It was Quiznos in Seguin, Texas, and they closed it down because of that. I got my last check like 2 weeks later in the fucking mail. So I worked 2 weeks, took me a fucking month to get a fucking paycheck, man. I've had managers that did drugs on the clock. I used to have a manager at a certain place that sells pancakes and is a house that used to fuck this cop. He's cool as fuck, dude. I love that guy. But yeah, they were dating, and he used to show up in his squad car, full uniform, and they'd go hook up in his car while she was on the clock too. But at the same time, she had no problem writing people up for like the stupidest shit, you know. I don't know if they still do, but fuck them. IHOP used to have this policy, right, where if you were calling out and you had coverage, right, you both had to sign this little thing, and that other person has to work for you, which made it like a binding contract, right? Well, it didn't even matter because if the other person didn't show up, that was a no-call, no-show on you. Even though they had to sign that paper. So what the fuck is the point of the paper then? to make it just seem official. These are the stupid things that people have to deal with at jobs. Even if, and I'm not saying I loved my job at IHOP. I fucking hated that job. And little bonus piece of information for you. I smoked weed on the roof of every IHOP I ever worked at. And that was at least 4 different IHOPs that I worked at. They all have I don't know about every IHOP, but every IHOP I worked at has a roof entrance with like this little ladder thing so you can get in there. Or you can get up on top of the roof from inside the building, usually where they keep the ice machines. No, not where they keep the ice machines, where they store the soda syrup. It's like dry storage. And they'll usually have a way up there. So we used to just sit up there and smoke weed. One time, me and this dude Joey were about to quit IHOP. So when we were putting up the marquee, which was supposed to say like epic combos starting at $9.99 or $6.99, I think. $5.99, starting at $5.99. We put up epic ass combos starting at $5.99. That shit stayed up for like a month before anybody noticed it. At least anybody who worked there noticed it. But this is the point that I'm making. You know, you just start to hate your job. Even if you start out loving it, there's this sense of being watched all the time. You know, and workplace harassment and assault is a real thing. I've been involved in it myself and like witnessed it. I've had to just be a witness. Like, yeah, this totally happened, or yeah, he fucking said that. It's happened to me. I worked with I'm not going to defend myself. This is what happened. I worked with a gay man. I won't say where. And he did this to everybody. He would make very lewd comments to try to, his thing was he liked to try to hook straight men. And I mean, if that's your thing, if that's your preference, that's one thing. But when someone's like, yeah, I'm not really into that, you need to let it go. Because after that, that's harassment, bro. I don't need to hear you talk about how good you could suck me off. One, that's gross to me. That turns me off. I'm not into that. I have no problem that you're gay, other than up until then, we used to joke and laugh, and I've never had a problem with anyone's sexual orientation or anything like that. But when you're telling me, you like almost whispering in my ear that you could suck me better than any girl could, like, this is well after this. I mean, shit, man, there's no telling how many times before that he had said stuff. Not even just to me, to a bunch of other guys, to the point that some dudes would want to fight him. And then now they're the bad guy because they're trying to beat up a gay dude. But it's like, you just got to tell them. I know it's embarrassing, but sexual harassment happens between two men too, and you got to say something or else you just look like an asshole, dude. It's not just because he's gay. It's because you told him to stop talking to you like that, and he keeps talking to you like that, or coming up behind you and making like sex noises in your ear. Not cool. Not cool. I've had females do the same thing. There was this one chick. We were cleaning out the walk-in, so it was very cold, walk-in fridge, and she kept talking about how hard her nipples were and that they were like raspberries, and she needed someone's mouth on them to warm them up, and you know, which sounds awesome, but guess what, man? That's sexual harassment, dude. It happens to guys too. That's sexual harassment. I wasn't interested. She had made a couple passes. She was an older woman who would kind of do that. For some reason, we excuse it when it comes from older people. Oh, that's just the way they are. No, that's fucking bullshit, dude. I don't like to I'm already somewhere where I don't want to fucking be. You know? I don't want to be here already. And now I have to worry about, oh, fuck, I'm working with her, dude. Gosh, she's got to put that fucking image in my head the whole fucking time I'm working. Or, oh, I'm working with him, bro. Like, come on, man. I don't need to fucking hear you beg for cum from some dude, you know. Especially when it was like a young dishwasher or something, man. He'd be hanging out back there talking about the grossest shit you could think of. Like enough to where it would piss and they'd want to fight him, man, because he just wouldn't stop doing it. And I'm wondering if maybe that was his kink. If he liked to be beat up, some people like that, but he would do it. And then he was almost happy about the fact that it got to that point, you know? It's really weird. And that's just coworkers. That's not even customers, man. Like girls that have to deal with customers. Oh, you don't have to deal with shit. Ladies, men even, you don't have to deal with a fucking thing. Somebody groping you, touching you. As a manager, I straight up walked people out of the establishment. We had this girl that used to cry a lot. And one day I walked in the kitchen, she was there crying, and I'm like, what's going on? What happened? And she's like, oh, table so-and-so called me stupid, saying it was taking too long. Like, okay, nope, that's a problem. Because now that's a flat out insult. So I walked over to him and I asked him, how everything was. And he's like, yeah, we have an idiot for a server. And I was like, yeah, that's what that was going to be my next question. So I need you to get up and I need you to leave because we don't want your business here. We don't want you here. You don't have to deal with this shit. You know that, right? Millions, if not billions of people just put up with shit behavior at their jobs. I've litigated a job before and I won. We settled because there wasn't a damn thing they could do about it. It was the only time I'd ever done it. The only time I felt like I needed to be doing it. But you'd probably do the same thing if you found out that over 6 years they had taken almost $60,000 from you while you're struggling. I had to lean into the mic for that one because it was just so unbelievable when the attorney calculated everything. Between the overtime I wasn't getting paying, between the hours they took out for a break each day, even if you didn't get it, because their number one rule was we never close the shop. Hurricanes, during that big freeze in Texas, during Hurricane Harvey, tornadoes, all that, we stay open. We don't close. It wasn't a 24-hour gig or anything like that. They just didn't close during work hours. So if you were the only one there for the day, you can't close. You don't get to go get lunch. You don't get to leave or anything. So after everything, after 6 years, it was about $10,000 a year they were screwing me out of. And there was no way they were going to pay that back. This was a little mom and pop place. So we settled, and you have a hell of a lot more rights than you think you do. So speak up. Speak up. If someone's groping you or someone's making you feel uncomfortable, say something. Embarrass them, especially in this age. You got some fucking balls to try to corner some girl at work and proposition her. You got some real fucking tires on you, man. Plus, if that ever happens to you, talk to someone in the kitchen about it. Talk to the kitchen staff about it and watch them get fucked up one night. Depending on where you work, I don't know about you, but most of the kitchens I worked in, sometimes maybe the harassment's coming from someone in the kitchen. Say something, I promise you. If you don't want to tell your manager for whatever reason, if you don't want to get the authorities involved or whatever, talk to your boys in the kitchen. And they'll handle it for you. Kitchen is like the steam engine of the restaurant. It'll keep it going one way or another. They'll keep it going. And if this is an office setting, I personally don't have much experience in an office setting. I can't think of a time. I've worked a lot of freight. I've bartended a lot. I've worked in a bunch of restaurants. I've worked in GameStops. I've worked in a bunch of retail. I've done more warehouse work. Never worked in an office, but man, you got to let somebody know. I know it seems embarrassing and it seems like you're a squeaky wheel, but even if nobody believes you, fuck them. Because if you don't tell, they're gonna keep doing it. They'll do it to somebody else. They need to at least know that there's people out there that will say something and eventually they'll get caught. It's at least something. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life, but it makes me so angry to know that every day people have to put up with some sort of sexual harassment or sexual assault, or they already don't want to fucking be there. They have to be there. And you're putting them through this as well. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. I think now's a good time since it's gotten very deep. We're going to jump into something very new here. I call it the flip side. And this is where I give you a few music recommendations to lighten the load a little bit. I love music and I really wanted to find a way to incorporate it into this podcast. And I feel like this is the way to do it. I'm still working on the name, but I like the flip side for now. There was an old record shop I used to go to called Flipside Records. And I feel like it's fitting. But for right now, I want to recommend to you a little band called Coco Roco out of the UK. Very Afro jazz. Check out the song. Ooh, I'm going to mispronounce it. It's T-I-D-E. I'll mispronounce it. I want to say like Ty-D, but that's probably not it. It's a great song. Abusey Junction is another fantastic song. That one I think is their most popular one. One day I threw it on while I was editing the podcast and didn't realize that it was like an hour long loop of just that one song. It took me probably a good 20 minutes to realize it was on a loop. They are fantastic for so many situations. On your way to work, if you're working out, if you're just chilling, soaking in the tub, they're fantastic if it's sexy time. And on that same note, you can check out Menahan Street Band. They're kind of similar. Rainy Day Lady, Make the Way by Walking. So many great ones. I can't think because right now I'm trying to think of these bands right off the cuff. Lately, I've been really into a little band called Hers, HER''S. A buddy of mine at work got me into them, and I want to call them almost... Man, I kind of want to call them like dark pop because there's something very Smiths / Leonard Cohen. I'm not even sure how to put it. Apparently one of their songs is real big on TikTok. This song called What Once Was. I'm guessing that was a big one on TikTok. I don't use TikTok anymore, so I don't know. Another really good one is She Needs Him. Harvey is a fantastic one. They're all good. All of them are good. I'm just kind of giving you some of my favorite ones. Cool With You is another really fantastic one. That one's good for sassy time too. I've also been on another one that I learned from Hers called Vansire, Vansire. I'm not sure where they're from. I feel like, man, it's probably the Midwest. I should have looked that up. But I didn't. They're very good. They have a really cute one called That I Miss You. Another one called Just the Right Song. That one's really cool. It's a really cool concept to it. And yeah, I think that's it for that right now. I hope you really enjoy these. Really go and find them and give them a listen and see what you feel. And you'll I feel like doing this, I feel like sharing music in general kind of shares parts of yourself. Because there's things that music can show you about yourself that even you didn't know, or it can help you get to know yourself a little more. So I feel like sharing music with people is such a cool way to connect. Recently, I became part of this Discord my buddy Ryan put me into, and they'll have a prompt, and then everybody picks a song that they think will go with that prompt, and then it gets voted on, and it's just a really cool way to get to know people. So I'm hoping that by the type of music that I listen to, this will kind of help you learn a little bit more about me so we can connect more. Well, that's it for this week. I hope a little bit of this was insightful. I hope you enjoyed it. We took a little bit different approach this time, and I think this is the route we're going to be going. I want to be more consistent for you guys. I don't want to ramble. I want to have at least some direction, and I felt like this episode went really good. I feel like it went by really fast. But it felt good to me. It was a nice one. Let me know what you think. Oh, and while you're at it, if you wouldn't mind liking, subscribing on YouTube. You can now support the show by becoming a subscriber on Buzzsprout. The link is in everywhere this podcast will be. Please rate and review. Go ahead and be honest. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I need the feedback to know what you guys like and to do everything in my power to make this a more enjoyable experience for you. Make sure you're following our socials to stay up to date on any news. When there is news. But hey, thanks again for listening. I really appreciate it. You guys are great. Oh, and before I leave, I actually had given a shout out to Conscious and Curly with your host Angelica. And I said that her preferred platform was YouTube and it's actually Spotify. She didn't make me go back and redact that. But she did let me know, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to mention it on the next episode. And she was like, oh, no, you don't have to do that. And I was like, I'm doing it. I don't want to give any misinformation. Just make sure you're checking her out. Make sure you're checking out ePup22 on Twitch. He's throwing it down. Lately, he's always got something to play. He's very, very chill. Make sure you're checking out Ursa Botanicals in Seguin, Texas for all your CBD, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, all that. Your legal THC needs here in the state of Texas. That's Ursa Botanicals in Seguin, Texas. Make sure you're checking out Culture in Seguin so you can get your gear up. Dress nice, dress flash. Very good street gear. He's a very few people I know personally grind like Max over at Culture, formerly known as Young, Wild, and Free. 10 years he's been open now. Good job, man. I'm proud of you. But that's going to be it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you like the new format. We're going to stay doing this going forward. And that's what everything's about here. We're going to grow, we're going to evolve, and we're going to change all the time. You're fantastic. You're amazing for sticking with us and supporting me. And we'll catch you on the next one.